everybody for this opportunity that I can present this informative presentation on fraud, the other F word. Those, of course, victimized by fraud are probably thinking the other F word, but that's good. My name is, as Stacy mentioned, my name is Jeff Mallan with Mallan Associates, and I am a forensic accountant and internal control consultant. And I'm here to alert you to the fact that in your businesses today, there may be fraud right under your nose. Here is a cartoon which kind of like goes along with our state of affairs in our economy. And one nation under greed, with liberty and justice for all. And remember all that TARP money that the government just dished out last year? Billions and billions and billions of dollars? Well, we just got the first fraud case on that. A bank exec just last week arrested for fraud on that. So
only one?
Right now, well, I knew something was going to happen. I knew with all that money and with all that loose change, there's going to be a lot of fraud, and there's going to be more to come, I'm sure. Okay, this is what I would like to present to you today, some fraud facts. Fraud in the news. The fraud triangle. You've heard of the Bermuda Triangle where people and boats and airplanes come up missing. The fraud triangle is where your money comes up missing. Also, I want to talk about some internal controls, red flags, and some anti-fraud programs. Fraud facts. Okay, this is pretty much out of the. I got this out of the 2008 report to the nation by the that was put together by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and what they found out of it was over about 900 cases of fraud. All frauds fall into one of three categories. We've got asset misappropriations. We're talking about your skimming schemes, your payroll frauds, your embezzlements, financial embezzlements, check embezzlements, with a frequency of about 89% of the time at a median loss of $150,000. Then we go to our corruption. And when we talk about corruption, we're talking about bribery, kickback schemes, and so forth. And with a frequency of 27% of the time at $375,000 per loss. And then the most costly one, which doesn't happen much of the time, but it's fraudulent financial statements, where the financial statements are pretty much misstated intentionally to deceive others who are getting those financial statements. With a frequency of about 10% of the time, $2 million per occurrence. That's the median loss. And just to bring you a little up to date on some 2009 facts, a survey that was done on embezzlements in 2009, and these are based on major cases of embezzlement. Women are likely to embezzle more than men. However, okay, I'm going to get the men. Men embezzle significantly more than women. Okay. Some other conclusions to this, and these are based out of 2009 embezzlements. Let's see. By a significant margin, embezzlers are most likely to be individuals who hold financial positions. Imagine that. Okay. And then California and Florida are consistently the states that experience the greatest losses from major embezzlements. Wow. Gambling is a clear motivation factor in driving some of those major embezzlements. You got a gambling habit? Well, got to find it sometime. Okay. There we go. Okay, the median months of detection. Now, what we're talking about in 2006, on the average, it took about 18 months to detect a fraud. Well, you think it's going down? No. 24 months in 2008. Well, that report that the survey I just talked to you about and some of the findings, 4.5 years now in 2009. Wow. So what's going on?
They're getting smarter.
What's going on? I don't know if they're getting smarter. There's something else that's going on here that I'll let you know later on in the presentation. Okay, let's talk about some fraud that in the news last year and current. We've got Quality Woodworks in Escondido, $9.9 million, embezzled by the bookkeeper, going for 7 years. John Mueller Logging, this is hot off the press. This was January this year. Red Bluff, $2 million embezzled by the office manager. There's not much more on this one that I know about, but it's still in the works. Tennell Fiber in Westminster, $1.8 million, embezzled by the bookkeeper. 7 years. You see a trend going here? Okay. Payless Hardware and Rockery in San Jose, $1.4 million embezzled by the accounts receivable clerk. And that was a skimming scheme. She was taking the cash receipts from the company as they were coming in. This was going for 7 years too. She got 10 years. Her husband got involved too. He laundered the money to their bank account through the bank. He got a year for that. And they needed to remodel their home. And they had some and they wanted to play money with gambling, so that's what they needed the money for. So you can't blame them, right? Okay, Knight Construction in Anderson, $1.3 million embezzled by the bookkeeper there. And Putnam Lexus, Redwood City, only got away with $835,000, but embezzled by the general manager. But the owner there was doing his due diligence. This was only going on for about 8 months, this fraud, until the owner decided to go through the financial records and the accounting records and came and detected the fraud. So lucky him. Could have been a lot more. Okay, closer to home. STX in Petaluma came out in November, $2 million. Embezzled by a very trustworthy employee of the owner, by the general manager, or the general manager embezzled. And then Sonoma Sausage in Napa, a small fraud, about $165,000, embezzled by the office manager. Well, her husband was the sales manager, so they kind of worked together on that one. But that STX Incorporated, he needed the money for gambling and to support his lavish lifestyle. That also went on for 7 years. So, all right. Well, here's a mugshot of Christina Robbins. Bookkeeper embezzled $291,000. That's not much. Another picture. We got a picture of Lenora Gatelli of San Mateo, California, a bookkeeper, embezzled only $100,000. But what do they have in common?
A husband?
You've heard of serial rapists. You've heard of serial murderers. These are serial embezzlers. They've embezzled from more than one company. In fact, both of these have embezzled from 3 organizations. Right? So why is that happening? Exactly. That's all I can think of. No one's doing their due diligence in finding out, the background of these people that they're hiring and who they're entrusting with their accounting records and money.
That to me is one of the biggest issues in the state of California. Is you can't ask anything. If those 2 women were involved in lawsuits from their past employers, and it was you couldn't talk about it, somebody else hires it, because I know we had a situation like this. A woman that was hired had been embezzled twice from her 2 prior companies, ended in lawsuits. It was quiet, nobody could say anything.
Right.
And in California, the only thing you can ask is, did she work for you for this time? Did you pay her this much money? That's all you can ask.
Yeah.
And would you hire her again?
I know, there's a few things that are wrong there, isn't there? So, but sometimes, there is some background check information. Something is eventually going to make it to the public records, to where you can find.